Hey, it's Paul Yancey here in Yosemite National Park, and today I'm going to be talking about different types of protection used for rock climbing, used more specifically for trad climbing or traditional climbing. When we're getting into trad climbing, it's mostly just the transfer from sport climbing where you're using bolts up, and that's what you're using for protection. So when you're going into trad climbing, it's basically the exact same thing, except you are using natural features in the rock to protect yourself in the event of a fall. And so the devices that you use to protect yourself are what we call trad gear or traditional gear. And there's a few different types of traditional gear. Generally speaking, we lump the two main types into two categories: active protection and we have passive protection. Active protection is a type of protection that has moving parts in it, mechanical moving parts. Passive protection is a type of protection that has no moving parts. So, in active protection, we have Camalots, ball nuts, big bros. Tri-cams are oftentimes considered active protection. And then when we go into passive protection, we have nuts. Tri-cams work as passive protection. Hexes or hexentrics, and they all just have their different places and their different pros and cons. When we're talking about active protection, the main type of active protection is a Camalot or a cam. These devices are ideal for placing in parallel-sided cracks. They come in a huge, wide range of sizes, and there's also a lot of different brands that kind of bridge the gaps between other brands. When we're talking about cams, when you place a cam, you want your cam to be in about that middle range, right about there, okay? If it's too far out, like that, you're going to have an insecure placement, and this cam is much more likely to walk, meaning it's much more likely to move into a more insecure placement. If you have it way too tight, it'll hold just fine, but the likelihood of being able to get that out is decreasing. Okay? So you're going to have a hard time getting that one out. You want it right about there. You also want the lobes to be evenly activated on both sides. If it's one more than the other, like that, it's just a less secure placement. They do make cams that are offset, that have where this side is wider than this side, so it's two different sizes. And the reason that's really nice is for flaring cracks. So like in Yosemite, where there's a lot of pin scars, where you have it much smaller on the inside than the outside, you can place one of those offsets, and that works really great. Another type of active protection is a big bro. A big bro is basically a tube that has a spring-loaded trigger, or when you press the trigger, it shoots the sides of the tube out onto the edge of the crack, and then you tighten it down. Those are really nice for really big, wide cracks. And then there's also these devices that we call ball nuts, or slider nuts. Those are a combination of active and passive protection principles. So basically what you have is you have a little half-shaped ball, and then a nut, and when you pull the trigger, it pulls the ball in closer to your thumb. When you place it in the crack, the ball moves out into this groove that's in a little nut, and that nut and groove go opposite directions, tightening up that placement when weighted. Okay? Then we have passive protection. Passive protection is a type of protection that uses a wedge or a constriction to protect the climber in the event of a fall. Okay, so here we have a nut, and the way that that would be placed is you would find a constriction in the rock, and you would place that nut right in there. The more surface area that you can get on the sides of the nut, the more sturdy that placement is going to be. Then we have devices that crisscross over between passive and active protection. The reason that some people consider this to be active protection is that you can place this in a almost parallel sided crack if it fits in there perfectly, like this or like this, and the way that the cable is oriented, when it pulls down, it torques the corners of this hex into the side of the crack, creating a camming motion, making this piece of protection active. You can also place this protection passively, just like a nut. You could place it in just like that, or you could place it in like that. Then here we have these devices called Tri-Cams. Tri-Cams are also kind of go between passive and active. They can be used passively, like a nut, just like that, but they can also be used actively with a camming motion as well, by folding this over onto the webbing and then sticking it inside of a parallel crack. The way that the webbing is oriented, it pulls down on the back side, pushing the tip right there into the other side of the crack. So you have force pushing down on this side and force pushing up on this side, creating a strong placement, making this piece of protection active. These are really nice in awkward placements, places where other cams or nuts just won't work. They're really nice for horizontal cracks or pockets. These are just really great devices to have on your rack. Now, when we're talking about protection, protection is only as strong as its placement, okay? And so the more surface area, or the more contact or friction that your protection has with the rock, the more sturdy or secure that placement is going to be. So a larger cam is going to be much more secure than a extremely small cam. Just in that with a small cam, there's very little room for error. That has to be placed perfectly, because if there's any expansion or if there's any flakiness of the rock, that cam is going to come out. Whereas with a larger piece of protection, there's a lot more room for error. And so if any bit of it, you know, kind of walks a little bit, or if some of the rock kind of gives way, there's still a lot of room for that placement to still hold you. Okay. So when we're looking at cams, we want the cam to be in that ideal mid-range location. So right here, that is about the mid-range location right there. This is too far out, that is too tight, okay? So I carefully select my cam. I think this number 2 is going to work quite nicely in this crack. I know that this rock over here, it's 100% solid. This rock over here, it's 100% solid. So I know that my rock is good. Inside, it's not flaky, so I know that my cam isn't going to come out of the rock. So I pull it to about that point, and then I place it inside the rock. And if you look there, that is a very nice placed cam, and I would trust a huge fall on that one. All right.
Then I can take that out just by pulling on the trigger. And now I'm going to show you some different nut placements, passive placements. So I select my nuts, and let's see. It looks like right there I have a constriction, and it also looks like down there I have a constriction. So first, let me try one of these. You know, I think that this nut right here will work. Oh. Nope, it looks like that one's just a little small. Try a slightly bigger size. Let's try this one right here. Okay, there we go. There, that's a solid placement. It's got a good amount of contact on the left side, and it also has a really good amount of contact on the right side. Up here I have another nut placement that I placed earlier. It has really good contact on the left side, really good contact on the right side, and the nice thing about this placement is you could climb above it and this thing could get pulled up and it wouldn't pull out of the crack just because of the way it's situated in there. And now I'm going to show you a way that we can use tri-cams. So we have a tri-cam right here. What we're going to do is we're going to bend the webbing over on itself. You see how I did that? Just like that. And I'm going to find a place to stick it in the crack. So I place it in there and I just kind of work it up in there. And now you test the placement, pull on it. That is really good in there. That is not coming out, no way.
So that's just a little bit about protection. There's lots and lots of different kinds, brands, different uses, and so I would recommend finding an instructor or a reliable mentor to show you how to place all these devices. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.